Good morning, guys. Welcome to this Friday, March 20th. Thank you. It's Friday. It's been a reasonably crazy week, right? Fair amount of volatility. Market is still under pressure. We are on the downswing of things, trying to figure out. And we're going to get a little bit of optimism building into this. Oil prices is down to 93.94. That's a positive sign. However, we had a pretty good sell-off going on here at the London session. You'll see that that whole thing took off from the 66 70s all the way down here to test the 66.10s, so all the way down here flirting with the below this support area. On the capital flow, that's big support area. Now we have no news to drive the market today. It's options expiration, quadruple witching, and that's about it for today. So I'm thinking that the market is going to be more or less showing you what kind of mood it's in. Don't use to drive it. We're going into a weekend. We still have this conflict going on, but I think the conflict is getting less and less of an issue in terms of the military outcome. It's more how long that strait is going to be lingering and if there's going to be any impact on oil prices. If that's going to start spiking. But they're up in the 90s, and if they can get to sort things out, I don't know if you heard, but it seems like he may have shamed Europe and into providing some minesweeping ships done in the Hormuz since they're getting most of the oil. It's kind of one of those things you have to wonder why people who needs the goods don't want to step up and do anything about it. But anyway, so we'll see if that happens. If they get some minesweepers in there, and they get other countries escorting ships, I think this whole thing is over. But it's until then, maybe it's going to be a little bit dicey. So we'll see. We still have that on the table. That's our biggest uncertainty going on out there in the world. Markets wise, I mean, the earnings report the earnings season was pretty good. Hasn't been any big surprise on the downside there, but given the uncertainty and the time of year we're in, it's been net pressure to the downside. So we'll see. Are they going to be able to knock this lower, or are we going to see a little bit of strength? I mean, yesterday we had a pretty good pop at the end. You see this little pop we had. We started off from the long side. We were holding that for a while in the overnight, and then of course the whole thing just came apart and they ran it all the way down. So we'll see. They retraced it back to the mode of yesterday, and I think the big question is, are we going to see continuation to the downside? I would stay on the short side today. I'd favor the short side, even if you see little pops like this. That's very positive. But as you can tell, you don't need much in the jittery market like this for the whole thing to head south again. So I would favor the short side right now until they start retracing some of this stuff and really get up above that 67.15s. It's going to be this resistance area now, a big resistance area. And nice, they could not get back up there. That big retracement from this was the Wednesday sell-off at the end of the day after the Fed announcement. That's big sell-off we had. We have not been retraced that at all. So if they start retracing that, start trading up above this area, the 67.15th, I think we are in good shape. Right now, I would stay on the short side. I would look to sell strength all the way up to that 67.15s for rotations down. That does not mean necessarily that you can't take a long trade on the way up here if the market looks like it's rallying pretty hard. If it looks like you have a pretty good momentum to the upside, by all means, you can get up, like take out this resistance area at the 66.50s. Maybe try a long trade, see if they can take it up and test the 70s. That kind of a dynamic you can certainly be looking for. But in the bigger picture, given where we are at and what's going on and the time of year we are in, the uncertainty in the Middle East, I would just favor the short side right now. So looking to sell strength against the 66.50s, 66.70s, 80s, 90s, 67.05, 67.15 for rotations down. The trade above that 67.15s, we are back above this big major area on the capital flow side. It didn't used to be much, but it's been turning into a little bit of an edge, the 67.15. So They can get up above that, I will take off the short bias and be a little more optimistic about the long side. But right now, that's kind of where I'm at on it. If I fold this together, you can see that, okay, this is our distribution. We got the lower end of this range. Rotating back up and trading around 67.15 would be a great outcome for the day. If it doesn't happen, they start taking out the lows, yeah, we just have to see how bad it's going to get. So looking to buy weakness against the 66.40s, the 20s down to the 10s with a bit of caution. So favoring the short side, but they're still buying opportunities down here because you're still in this big support area. So, but if they take out the 66.10s, I mean, then we are below the lower end of the range. We see that 4 letter edge. That's kind of where they stalled right now. I could technically move this down a little bit, do this, just to see, okay, fine, now we're down, drag it down to that 4 letter edge. Now we're matching out kind of where they're pushing it a little bit better, but it's still pretty much this area here where you had to pay attention. So they start taking out that lower end, the 66.10s. Yes, we are heading down this lower range, and who knows how far they're going to take it after that. We haven't been down here for quite a while. So if I make this bigger, you can see this is my 6-month mark in 916, and that's how far back it goes. I don't use more data than that, but I mean, we haven't been down here. Well, last time we were down here was like 6 months ago. So we'll see how bad it's going to get. If it's going to be a day where you see further weakness going into the weekend, or if you're going to see a little bit of strength given the weakness we already seen in the overnight. So I start off range bound, biases to the downside. I'm going to look to sell strength up to that 67.15s. And the levels are 66.50s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 67.05, 67.15 rotations down. And if they start heading lower, I'm going to look to buy against the 40s, the 30s, and the 20s. Sorry, the 40s, the 20s, the 10s with a bit of caution. So that's going to be the approach, at least to get started. Then we'll see. Are we going to get some strength, or if this overnight weakness is going to show up in the day session as well? On the Nasdaq, we have a very similar situation. They're down here against this support area. Support area at the 350s is like 320 up to the 420s, 100-point range right here. And they've been down here flirting with that as well. So pretty weak overnight on the Nasdaq as well. Good retracement so far. And again, if they can get up above this 650 area, then I'll take off the short bias and go back more range bound. But right now, I'm going to look to sell strength against the 510s, the 570s, for 600s, 650s, 690s up to the 730s. And 730s takes us just above this area. So I would look to sell all the way up to that 730 level for rotations down again. And if you can get up above that 730, I would be above the yesterday's session high. Start retracing these single prints, not single prints, but this sell-off from Wednesday. Then I would be a lot more inclined to be positive about the long side. So right now, we're starting off range bound, starting with a slight bias on the down, or starting with a bias to the downside until we start seeing some strength taking out that 730s. I would prefer for them to get up above the 800s, but I'll take the 730s. It's going to be strong enough to start thinking long side of the market. And on the way down, looking to buy against the 400s, the 360s down to the 320s for rotations up. I would be down in this lower range. They take out the 320s. Bets are off. I think we can head a lot lower after that. And as you can see, we are back down here in that lower range. 6 months mark. We have been bouncing here for quite a bit. A couple of bad probes to the downside when we had really hard sell-off days, like elevator down days. But it's really right now we're more grinding towards those levels. Not like we have this big sell-off event kind of dragging us down, but we're kind of grinding ourselves down to these levels, which means that we may have an attempt to take this lower and potentially shake out the even more weak positions. Well, we'll see. It may be pretty good cap on the. I mean, you can see the market hasn't really sold off a whole lot, but have been big rotations in the stocks. Big tech have been hammered. Like Microsoft is way down, down below like 390, 380, 390. They were up in the 500s. So big techs like that being absolutely creamed, big time punished, and that's just how it is right now. That didn't mean so money's just been flowing into different sectors. Doesn't mean it's going to stay like that. Eventually, they're going to flow right back into that AI trade, and then but right now, I guess it was a bit crowded, and a lot of people have been spreading out their money a bit more. So right now, though, we are that's kind of where we start on the Nasdaq. So watch this upper area, the 730s. That's going to be the upper level to shift bias. On the way down, they take out these low 610. Oh boy, sorry, the 300s and 310s. Oh boy, at that point we are heading lower. So for us, it's in terms of trading. I would look for maybe a little bit of retracement, a little bit of early strength to get short against. And then let's see if that's going to turn into a little bit more strength or if it's going to be just running up here, testing these upper areas and then heading back down again. We will see. We'll trade either way we see it. It's just a matter of what the market is, what kind of mood the market is in. Hard to say, but it feels like we have a bias to the downside, a risk off sense of it to get started. It doesn't mean it needs to stay like that. Sometimes when you get these big sell-offs in the overnight, you have a hard retracement in the day session and then they take it even higher. So it's just because it's sold off in the overnight doesn't mean much. That's your London session selling off. All right, so that's the ESN and Nasdaq starting both of those with a short bias, and we know when to shift our bias to the upside or when to really lean in on the short end of this. And then finally, bonds. Bond market kind of holding around 14, has not been able to get back to 15 and stay there. So yesterday we had a pretty good move to the upside. You can see the overnight they've been slowly retracing to the downside again. So they may be ready to take it lower. So you get these days on the bonds, almost fake out days. I mean, we had a couple of those like over here, this kind of day back on the 13th, same story there. They've been trading lower and then had a day where they really run it higher and they almost close towards the highs. This one did not do that though, but this was more of a sell-off day. Let me see. I'm looking for a day like this one. Oh, I think maybe it was a little bit earlier than this. But sometimes you get these days, retracement days, in the mean of things, just runs right up there like this, and then you slowly start just grinding back down again. So overall, I think the net direction on the bonds is to the downside. We're heading down to this big ledge at the 12 113s, and watch that one. The 113 comes out. Fair amount of difference between that one and the 1224. So I think if that ledge comes out, we may be in a little bit of trouble. So that's one to pay attention to. But right now, starting off, range bound still. We haven't taken those out just yet, so we can still look to buy against support against the 114s, 1320, 26s, 1320s for rotations back up. We're going to sell strength against the 1404. And move this up here. Cutting off the last numbers at the edge, I can't see them. So looking at the getting short against 1404, 1410, 1414s, rotations down. If they trade up above this London session high, I'll probably take off the short bias and go back as flat out range bound. But initially looking for weakness and see if they can try to take it lower. If I get early strength, I'm going to try to get short up to that 14s. If I just get weakness, I'm going to ask to see look for buying opportunities down against the 140 is where we are trading now, but 1326 and 1320s for rotations up again. We'll see. I mean, you can see how this whole day has been a slow grind like this to the downside. If it keeps going like that, we could see a pretty good down day. It just have to see how the day session starts kicking in. If it's going to keep grinding this lower. And as since we don't have any news to drive it, or any news to impact the market, I think we're just going to have to see, wait to see how the day session starts shaping up. And if you're going to see some strength building or if it's going to be more of a range-bound trading day developing. But we're starting off on the ESN and NASDAQ with a slight bias to the downside, looking to sell strength at least to get started. Then after that London close, we may have to reassess what kind of day we're getting. All right, we'll wrap it there, guys. So good trading, and I will see you back at 11:30. All right, guys, later.